Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Unfiltered Vet Discussions. My name is Kelly, and I'm being joined by David and Phil today. The Royal Artificial Wave. We don't have theme music, we have waves. So here you go. So what we have is a website. You can come visit us at all the social media platforms that you know about and podcast platforms. Come like, share, follow so you don't miss an episode, and we'd love to hear from you. With the administrative work out of the way, we do have a topic today because we always chit chat ahead of time and we're like, what? Because we take topics from our personal lives or things that we are surrounded about in the veterinary vertical. And so today, Phil's going to kick it off, but the title is How Bad Is It? Dot, 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 really? Question mark. Right? Because if you're not reading this, I just wanted to let you know kind of how the title is laying out there. But Phil, you have a story to tell, and stories are great. So what
Yeah.
story do we have today?
Yeah. I mean, this literally happened to me yesterday in the hospital. So the story was the day before. So today's Wednesday, as it always is for us, on Unfiltered Vet Discussions. But on Monday, we had a new client come into the hospital. I could tell that the younger associate and our and one of our technicians were relatively distraught, in their communications and dealing with this. And the information that I got from the getting rounded from the vet was that this dog came in, couldn't walk, had likely torn a cruciate. Also on physical examination, had a large mass that wasn't known to that part wasn't known to the owner. They took x-rays. It looked like the mass was bleeding. There was fluid in the abdomen. It was probably a splenic hemangiosarcoma or something like that. But the dog was really suffering. And and humane euthanasia was really the best option for this kid. The information that I got on the rounding was this man he's screaming in the room. He's violent. I'm worried that if this goes wrong, that it could go bad for the clinic, almost like that this person was going to come back and, potentially do something. And so I heard this at the end of the day, and then I'm getting ready for work the next morning, and it's 7:30. I get there at 8:30. 7:30, one of my technicians calls me and says, the guy from yesterday is back, and he's at the front door, and he said he's not going anywhere until he's seen. And I'm like, okay, all right, well, just thinking about, I don't want them to have to de-escalate a situation without somebody in a leadership position there. But I was like, okay, just be safe. Like, if you guys feel threatened in any way, you can call the authorities. And again, I'm saying this based on, in the back of my head, this rounding that I got from someone else. And then I got into the clinic. And, well, sorry, before I got to the clinic, I call our practice manager, or call our main practice manager. And I'm like, hey, I don't want to, I'm prefacing it by saying, I don't want to rile everybody up, but there's this potential situation that might be happening where I just want us to have a plan in place. Like, if we need to happen to call the authorities or, anything like that. I talked to our practice manager at the hospital, who ended up having talked to this guy previously. And she goes, I have to tell you, she goes, that just wasn't my, interpretation of what was going on with this guy. He was just really distraught. And I was like, oh. And so this, our practice manager and I have kind of really similar ways of, viewing emotional situations and that type of thing. And she's got a great head on her shoulders. And so I was like, oh, I didn't even consider that might have been, the thing. So I went in and I purposely, before I walked in to talk to this client, because I was amped up
Yeah.
already going in with these thoughts. I sat and I'm talking to the practice manager, and I just started doing some breathing exercises. And I explained to her also, to tell, to remind myself, I'm like, I can tell how I'm going to be with a client, like up here on my shoulder, by how I walk into the exam room. Like if I'm already, oh, this person's mad, they were yelling at me, and if I come and grab that door and boom, and I take that power step, like into the room, it's not going to go
It's going to be
well.
a different
Yeah,
experience.
I'm
Yeah.
already, I'm amped up, and so I was like, I don't
Expectations.
want to do this. Right. And I'm like, I don't want to do that. I want to be able to step in here and give this person, be able to make my own assessment. So, I made the slower, intentional slower opening. I walk in, and the story that I get from this guy, he moves down he was in Pennsylvania. He's got an RV that's parked out in our yard. That's where he lives. He's got the dog in the front seat. The dog is his entire life for the past 9 years. He has no family. He doesn't have anything. And he knows that his dog is suffering, and he just can't process it. He's like, I don't know what I'm gonna do. And so he was yelling, but he was yelling at the universe. Like he wasn't yelling
Right.
at me. And and I was calm and saying, and I connected with him. And I said, look, I want you to know, like, as a veterinarian, like I am not great making these decisions with my own kids. Like I'm not a calm, collected, I'm just as emotional, as we are, because they're my animals too. Connected with them, just gave him, kind of could tell, he has that, that man, masculine, or inability, oftentimes as men, to connect with this. And he was upset that he was crying in front of me. I'm like, look, man, it is totally okay. Put my arm around him. And we spent about 2 hours with him. He finally was able to make the decision. He kept saying, I don't know what I'm going to do, and I don't want to be here. I was able to, tap into some of the mental health resources that we had. In QPR, I teach QPR. And so we had everything lined up for him to have support. And then we have a client of ours who is a very just interesting bird, I'll say. She's just, she wears kind of not hippie, but kind of clothes, probably like late 50s, early 60s, lots of jewelry. And somebody says, hey, somebody's up front talking to the gentleman, who just lost his dog. And this guy also was telling me, I don't have a wife, I don't have anybody. And I go back up 3 times. An hour and a half has gone by. He's still talking to her in our waiting room. And I just look around, and his shoulders have relaxed. He's leaning forward into the conversation. And my practice manager goes up and she goes, yeah, they've got each other's number. Like they go to leave, they're parked next to one another. They roll the windows down and then keep
And still
talking
chatting.
and still
Wow.
keep talking. And I was just like, I'm getting goosebumps like this, because
Yeah, I'm
here
getting
a number of
chills from
things,
that.
happen. So one, I go in, potentially could have gone in guns blazing with a fundamentally different assessment of what was going on in that room, and made things way worse. And
Right.
I'm grateful that I was able to, with hearing another, some other opinions, I was able to just kind of throttle that down, walk in, and then be present, just as a human being. Like I already knew the decision was, is the dog needed to be put to sleep. Like the poor thing was suffering, and pain medication wasn't going to help. No amount of hospice care at that point was really going to be beneficial. It's just we had to help him to that decision. But it was, one is being able to not, how different my day would have been had I gone in with that misinterpretation. Potentially then somebody who's in a distraught state, emotionally out of grief, bringing them to anger. And then that would have gone just way worse. But to be able to sit there and just be with someone, I mean, nothing I did in there had any real clinical impact. I mean, I knew the dog, I guess from a medicine point of view, I knew what was going on with the dog medically, and knew that, the prognosis was, grave to, to critical. But other than that, it was just being a human being, and sharing space with this person. And then to see how the universe puts this other person who we
Right
all
there.
know, like is a legit character, in our in our practice. Um, and there she is. And she's there to support this guy. I mean, I was on the phone with University of Florida. Like I'm grateful. Like I'm friends with the mental health team at University of Florida's vet school. They're getting me resources. They're offering to, and thank you, by the way, Kristen McCallum. They were willing to talk to him later that night. Just so many people were coming together help this guy. And the person who helped him the most was not 100 guesses. I wouldn't have come up with that scenario.
Right.
And so it was realizing, I think being able to just be with that person and show them that they matter, and offloading my own misinterpretation of a situation. Oh, and then I even made a misinterpretation based on all this stuff from what the other person had told me. I told our other veterinarian, don't even come, like, I'm gonna get there at 8:30. Like, get there like 5 minutes after me. I don't even want you to
Right.
have to encounter this person. Like, and I'm like, man, and all it was just a human being that was, I mean, not just, but it was a human being who was distraught. And I'm grateful because because of some of the lessons I've learned, and and connecting with that, is that gave me an opportunity to be an observer and have a ton of gratitude for all those things, versus coming out of that room and going, he storms out, and I don't know, like, maybe, I don't think he would have, but maybe within that state it would have gone poorly, but it didn't, because I was just able to regulate some of my emotions, and ask some hard questions of, am I right? Am I perceiving this
Right.
situation right? And I wasn't. And changing my perception and taking the opinions of some other people that I really respect, and had a fundamentally different experience.
But you
And
made a
so
choice. Like it was like
part
you're
of
at a road choice. Like you're coming to a T stop. You can go left, you can go right, right? Two
right. Yeah.
vastly different experiences. And you're like, which one am I going to choose today? Am I
Yeah.
going to? And you also stepped back from your own ego, is what it sounds like, and say, wait a minute, I'm going to take me out of the equation
Yeah.
and I'm going to reassess and I'm just going to see. Because you also felt confident in yourself that you could handle what was in the room, is what I under,
Yes.
versus
Yes.
That's a
like,
good point.
If I was in the right, like, I also know enough about myself, is that if I'm in that heightened state, I'm not. I'm just as human as everybody else. And if I go in charged, and I make that,
Yeah.
that forceful entry into the exam, that power move, in my mind, whatever, if I do that, it's done. Like, it's over. And luckily, I don't do that very often anymore, like over the past like 15 years, but I sure as hell have done it before. And every time I set it up, the person comes, they see my body language, they see what's going on,
React
they
in
respond
kind.
to the way, right. They respond to the way I am. So it was, but I think the most powerful thing that I learned, and you mentioned ego, um, is that I genuinely asked, like, am I wrong?
mhm,
Like, is it possible that I'm not, that I don't have all the information, and that maybe I'm not making the right assessment? And it
Yeah.
allowed me to be curious and step back, and then go, yeah, like, here's somebody else who saw it differently. I do believe, I do trust what they're saying. Let me regulate my emotions, because even though up here, up in my head, I knew it, but my heart and my my sympathetic nervous system hadn't come on board with that yet. So I had to throttle that down before I walked in the room, and then just had, just a much more powerful experience that I could enjoy and be grateful for than, again, if I would have busted in that room, it,
You were an
it would have
active
been,
listener,
yeah,
which
yeah,
is a trick these days.
it's
People
hard.
don't like they don't rock back and go, wow, I am going to actively listen to you. And then I might paraphrase back what I'm hearing just to make sure I'm
Mm-hmm.
hearing you in my
Yep.
active listening skills state. And most times people just want to be heard. Like
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's it. They're just like, this poor
absolutely.
guy, he's alone, literally alone, it sounds
Yep.
like, except now the strange bird, because they've
Yeah.
swapped phone numbers, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
They've connected.
Who knows where
Yep.
that will go? And his buddy is gone, right? And so hopefully he can
Yeah.
find a new buddy that will help fill that space for him. But right there at that moment, there was nobody holding his hand,
Yeah.
like except you.
And I think what's really important, we started talking about well-being, initially, and none of this is meditation or taking walks in the woods or,
Right.
anything like that. And yet all of this, questioning our thinking, learning how, I mean, not meditation, but learning how to just kind of throttle down our stress response before we get into something else, being present with another human being, be curious, not judgmental, and
Mhm.
then being an observer of this, and then allowing myself that I didn't do that thing. Like I
To
didn't make him
recognize.
feel bad,
Yeah.
but I didn't, right, but that I could I could appreciate the the beauty of what was going on with someone else and be happy for them, even though I didn't play, I didn't make that happen. And I know that sounds a little funny, but from someone in recovery, I remember it took me a long time before I could 100% be altruistically happy for another human being without maybe that 5 to 10% little twinge of either jealousy or, oh, they shouldn't have got it, or what, like there was always like this little voice in the back of my head, which, look, I mean, it still comes up, but it has been tamped down with work. But I couldn't wait to run back and tell the practice manager like what was happening, and it was so wonderful. And so, yeah, so but those are everyday things that my day coming home, I called my friends to tell them that story, where a lot of times at the end of the day, when you're like, oh, how was your day? Oh, this client was mad, or oh, that, I had this complication in surgery
Right.
or whatever. And I was genuinely excited to tell, a happy story, to other people who also enjoyed it, and really appreciated it. So yeah.
Well, your presence and awareness to see where you were and where that path could have gone versus resetting. And I mean, that speaks kudos to you being present
Mhm.
in the moment.
Yeah.
And be, yeah, wow.
Yeah.
That's a
But
great story.
I just think it's one of those things though, just when we talk about well-being, that how important these everyday, these little decisions or actions or things that we do. We have a saying in the South of "Don't hit your shin on a stool that shouldn't have been there in the first place." Is like I didn't make my day worse by going in with my own behavior and throwing gas on a fire. I was able to do some things to throttle that back, which opened the door for this other beautiful connection that I had with this guy. To be able to just talk. And I mean, I don't even know how long. I think he was there for 3 or 4 hours, at our hospital. So, and we just let him, just let him be. I
Hit
mean,
me
most of
up.
that time was with the HIPAA with the wonderful human being who
Yeah.
was sharing space with him at the time. Yeah.
I was just,
Things happen for a reason.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I believe that. I see that in my day-to-day work. I see that personally. And I'm just getting chills thinking how much lined up for him for that day.
Yeah.
Your awareness, the experience the
Mm-hmm.
day before, the other woman being there at that point in
Yeah.
time. It's just like,
Yeah.
wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
To make that experience for him. I mean, that's, wow, I can't imagine. starting off where he was, losing his
Yeah.
best buddy, his travel
Yeah.
companion, and then to go through that path.
Right. And I
Wow.
mean, it's still going to be tough, but it's, we weren't as far as to call like the authorities to, for a Baker Act, but we were, and
Close.
we still gave him all, we still gave him all the resources and everything. And he said he promised us he would call, if he needed to, but, and then the techs are going to follow up with him today just to check and see how he's doing today. But the other thing that's interesting is that when we're caught up so much in negativity bias or ourselves, like which I mean it's a normal human trait, but if I was just walking around the clinic and just be like, oh damn it, this and this and this, and I wasn't in a place to receive being able to view that, like I would miss out that thing was happening, and I would have just glossed over it. And so two different people could have seen that same thing happening at the same time, and depending on where they were at spiritually, emotionally, what have you,
Mhm.
like in that moment, they're going to either blow that off or they got to experience it the way I did. And like you
Right.
said, David, like, oh wow, like what an amazing thing for the universe to like have that person there at that moment and share space with another human being, and be there for him in a way genuinely that none of us at the clinic could. It
Right.
just,
But
that was just a random, to him. I mean, we could say random, but,
but
was
it's
a person. Yeah, go ahead.
well, so I was reading something actually this morning through my scrolling, and it said, listen to the small things, not the big
Mm-hmm.
things. The
Yep.
big things that you're seeing tend to be more related to the ego, and are really not. And if you don't pay attention to the small things, they're going to go by, right? And
Yep.
I was thinking about your interaction, and I was thinking about where I live in Minnesota. So, Minnesota, Wisconsin, Iowa, North and South Dakota are their own cultural experience. And I keep trying to tell people this, but we have our kind of our own little subset culture, just like, Southern people have their culture and they're saying
Mm-hmm.
things like that.
Yeah.
But we're just really reserved. But what I've noticed about people up here is kind of like you walked into the room. They don't make a loud fuss. Their comments are
Yeah.
very quiet and they're potent. And if you don't aren't quiet to listen to the
Yeah.
other person, you will totally miss it here in Minnesota and the other states that are like sister states because like I remember waiting tables and people don't like confrontation. The manager said,
Hmm.
watch the women who take their steaks and their hamburgers home that are mostly not eaten. And they'll say that they're full and they're not hungry. Well,
Mm,
what they're really saying is it wasn't cooked right.
mm.
And they're going to take it home
And
and
finish
they're going
cooking it.
and they're going to finish
Yeah.
cooking it and make it cooking right. But that it was a small action. They're just asking for
Yeah.
a doggy bag to go home. But that's what I mean for small actions, right? You did small actions yesterday, Phil. You took the small action of breathing. You took the small action of opening the door gently. You took the small action of being, I'm going to be open
Yeah.
and receptive. All of those are
Mm,
small actions. And people, I think, and I've also just sit and watch people and see what people think. We're culturized to only major things happen big splashy ways, like in the
yeah.
movies and the heroes come.
Right.
But it's those moments that you have that are the bigger moments than any superhero blowing up a building behind them and walking away, tossing the match, right? It's don't miss it.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And I think, what's interesting is in veterinary medicine, by the nature of what we do, I think well, certainly if we're observant, but even not, like, to your point, Kelly, is I think if we're just going about our business on any day, like if we are quiet, observant, and in, of the world, that we can view those things happening. And sometimes in veterinary medicine, to your point, is like some other things kind of, smack us in the face that are a little more, big time, around
Yeah.
euthanasia or hit by cars or
Right.
those things. But it gives us the opportunity that I will say, I mean, certainly there are things that I get to do in the hospital that are, clinical that bring me joy. Like I do got a surgical case done or something like that, that it's purely the skill or the learning or the joy of, accomplishing something. The majority, and I would say that most veterinary professionals, if we get down to brass tacks and really look at it, most of the reasons that I find joy are me being able to be of service to another human being, or the the pet and the human being. It has not, most of those things don't have anything to do with how
Yeah.
many differential diagnoses I can come up with, for a vomiting cat. But if I don't lean into that, I mean, that's what I really try to impart on newer grads is like, yes, you're learning this stuff. Don't forget to be a human being, and like and be able to do that. Those are going to be the most powerful things that stick with you. And those are the reasons why, clients are going to love you more, and it's going to make your life, easy, because they're going to ask for you, and they're going to love communicating with you. And that, it just, for me, I guess I'll say, I think for
No,
a lot of us,
I
but
think
for,
that's very true.
yeah.
And
It's
here's,
very 100% in what I do.
And it's whatever you
It's,
right, David,
yeah,
absolutely.
100%.
Yeah.
It's how I can help them in that moment,
Yeah.
and with these big decisions,
Yep.
buying, selling a practice, owning a
Yeah.
practice, healing a practice,
Yep.
etc. That's where the joy comes, is making
And I
that
think
connection.
too, and you said it, is that being in a position, and then Kelly too, is like, if you've got a clinic that, like, their numbers are down and they're freaking out and like they can't make payroll or whatever, and it's like we need marketing. It's like all of us are in a position where people come to us when they're heightened and
Yeah.
scared and fearful or angry or something, and
yeah,
that we have the opportunity to be there and be supportive, be next to them, and walk them through that, in different ways, but similar. They're all coming to us with the similar emotion,
yeah, I've
whatever,
got a
whatever's
Yeah.
putting
problem
that
and I'm
forward.
freaked
Yeah.
out, right?
Yeah.
Like I'm
Right.
freaking out and I may not be presenting that well. I may not be communicating it well because I may be more in
Yeah.
emotion than I am in a verbal space.
Yeah.
But I mean, can you please help me? Right.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
that
Be
is
part
the
of the
joy,
solution. Yeah.
being part
Yep.
of the solution and really going, you're not alone. We help you.
Yeah.
We got you this.
Yep.
And we're not even alone. You're not alone on really crappy, shitty decisions like the guy yesterday.
Yeah.
The outcome, you knew the outcome, but he wasn't alone. And that was for
Yeah.
him, sounded like, I mean, the dog was hard, but also alone was really hard because then
Yeah.
what was
Yeah.
left in his life, this massive
Yeah.
blank hole.
Right.
And you guys gave him the space. You're like, stay as long as you want. And he did,
Yeah.
you
We
know?
did. He's like, I don't know how I'm gonna drive away, because the dog sat in his, his buddy sat in his passenger seat. I was like, man, you stay all day, if you want. Like, if you need to, like, if you need something, just come in. We'll get you a glass of water. We'll get you something to eat. Like, and we all mean it. Like, that's the,
Yeah.
and we're not, and our clinic is not, I'm not, our clinic is not a, a unicorn thing. Like, this is being done. That's the beauty of this profession. Why, really, at our core, like, I
Yeah.
love veterinary professionals. I mean, I love human beings, but like veterinary professionals, just knowing that that outcome was not unique to our hospital. Um, Now, how personally how I did it was like a little not unique, but I did have to use some skills to throttle myself back. But that compassion is
Yeah.
almost universal, in veterinary hospitals. So I just love that about our, our profession
I
in
agree.
general. Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
just think, how can we spill that over to the rest of the world? That
Yeah.
compassion, right?
Yeah.
Because I think it's something that the veterinary space never lost, but other verticals
Mm-hmm.
did. Like, I think more of
Yeah.
it were in the compassion space. And then through industrialization and things like that over
Yeah.
the years, I think we've lost the compassion or been told we're not human if we're compassion or we won't advance if there's lots of marketing narratives in there. If you're
Mm.
compassionate, it equals failure, it doesn't equal success.
Yeah.
But how can we get that back? I mean, this podcast is part of it. We don't know
Yeah.
where
Mm.
you work. You may not even be in the veterinary space, but compassion is a human right that I think all of us have. And
Yeah.
how can we be a ripple in the pond? Everybody in the
Well,
veterinary space.
I think you said it too, Kelly, as you mentioned, those well, the small viewing the small things, but also those small intentional actions.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, like AI and all these things that are, come that, the industrialization of, many different, areas of business and stuff. But at its core, if we can be intentional about taking the opportunities to be human with another human being, like it does sometimes, depending on what we're doing, like we might have to step out, a little bit. Or if we don't want to step out, as just observing that person through a different lens. Like maybe you don't have to, if it doesn't feel comfortable to ask them, is something going on, or like, how are you feeling in this moment, or something like that. It's just try not to have a negative, like try not to go to the worst case scenario of, oh, what an
Yeah.
evil, unfeeling person. And then just saying, like we talk about here a lot, is maybe that person just, is going through loss, or maybe that person, just had some horrible thing happen. And I can, whatever I can do, non-verbally, even, as just send thoughts, or if prayer is what you do, or whatever it is, but send some type of energy to, to that person. And I hope that person gets what they need today, and not in a catty,
No, no, no,
oh, I
no,
hope
no,
you I
no,
hope you
no.
get
But
what you
it's
deserve,
sincere.
like genuinely, like whatever it is that person needs, I hope they get.
Yeah.
And I was thinking too, Kelly, the when you're the complete difference in how some people can react to, like, if your steak is undercooked.
Right?
Like I
Oh
could
yeah.
I mean, I was a server for
I've
for
waited
for a
many
while.
Yeah.
tables.
So we've
Yeah.
all been on
And
the
it's
other side of the
all
table,
been,
right?
but it's like I could never, like, you'll see people just screaming at, and I got to tell you this. So one time, my mom, this was like 10 years ago, my mom's boyfriend yelled at the server. We were all together, and my my wife stood up and told him to shut his mouth and apologize to her. And it was like, that's my
That's
girl,
brilliant.
And leave a little extra tip
and
along the way, right? Like,
yeah. But it's like, but it's that stuff. But the flip side to it is, then I've had conversations with him. He's since passed, but he was just a hurt people,
Yeah.
as we say. And he had gone through a lot of trauma that he just never, he was a male in the military, and like, you just didn't talk about those things, but he opened up with a lot of those things to me. And it's like, it doesn't excuse the behavior,
Right.
but I could understand that he just didn't have the tools to know how to navigate those things when they came up. And
Yeah.
so we did try to work on them. So it's like, even those people, when they're like that, it's like, that's
yeah, and
there's
what's going on,
yeah,
right? And just
yeah,
even besides a hard
yep,
moment like you had, Phil,
yeah,
I kind of try to think, how do I want to be everywhere? Like in the grocery store. How do I want to
yeah,
be
Yeah.
like, and people can sense it. Like, I'm a Costco girl. I'll hands down admit I'm a Costco girl. I was walking into Costco and I was wearing one of their fleece jackets, Minnesota people, very trendy. It's what we do up here.
yeah,
And a woman, she can just sense, like people can just sense people who are not going to reach around and claw their eyeballs out, right? And she's just
yeah,
like, oh, I have that too. And I'm like, yeah, isn't it great? And it's so warm and you can wear it. And, we had a small moment there walking into Costco, and I was open to it because I
yeah,
was just like sharing, but I could have just ripped her eyeballs out for like
Yeah.
interfering. She
yeah,
touched me on the shoulder and I was like, hey, what's up?
yeah,
Like, didn't take offense. And she was wanting to share that she loved the coat so much and was glad to see I was wearing
yeah,
it. And I'm like, cool, it is pretty cool. I try to
yeah.
get one every year, new color.
Oh, and
Right?
to your point, like, we see so many, like, the big stuff on TV and all the bad stuff and everything, and
Yeah.
it doesn't allow us sometimes to give space for the small, beautiful things, like you just said.
And
Like,
that
if I see, like, if I just watch the news and that person touched me, it's like, oh, like
Yeah.
what are
Right.
versus what are the what are the odds that just guessing like a 40 something year old woman is going to
Yes.
physically assault me, like walking into like she's going to deck me, like
It's
it's
like,
like okay,
Yeah.
and it's interesting because I thought that about like I did 3 years of Krav Maga, like just because my kids were in martial arts, and they did this stuff for the adults, and so I did that. But it was always this like operational awareness and situational awareness and things, and I'm like, that's good if I'm in if I'm not in Odessa,
High risk
Florida.
area or
Yeah,
something. Yeah.
right. It's like it's a fundamental difference. But if I start viewing where I'm at now through that lens, I'm going to start seeing everybody as a threat, and it's going to change. And then I come in the door forcefully, or whatever it is. And I was very aware because I was, pretty deep into this, studying the positive psychology and everything when I was taking Krav Maga, which might seem a little to like that's a dichotomy there, but it really was cool. Like it was like seeing, wow, like this could really this is why it can change the way that we view the world, even though like I'm here and I can see I can see where I live in one thing, but somebody else with a set of different experiences and belief right next to me, and we're both looking at the same
same
the
deal.
Different
same thing, and
lenses.
we're looking. Yep. So
Well, to wrap it up today, I would encourage everybody out there, like we're trying to start here on this podcast, to give you one thing to focus on, one takeaway, right? Because there's a lot of information we have here. And if you have multiple takeaways, that's absolutely wonderful. But I would encourage all of you to find the one moment where you can observe and be an active listener to somebody else in your life that you don't even know. And you have lots of opportunities to practice. We all get gas, we all go to the grocery store. If you have kids, you're at sporting events or kid event ideas, and parents don't always behave their best at kid events. So that's a prime opportunity there. Um, Also, if you drop off your kid every day at the school, parents really don't behave really well in the parent drop off and
okay.
pick up line. So you got a lot of opportunities there. But, look for the little things and look for how you respond to that little thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are you pulling a fill and calm and breathing and opening your mind and being open to it? Or are you going in and banging the door in an offensive manner?
Which to be fair is also a fill, depending on
Right.
could also be.
Which Phil do you
Could
want to
also
be?
be.
Right,
Right,
but we
right.
want
Yeah.
the we
What
want
does the
the
Right.
situation call for?
we want the
Yeah.
inner fill
Right.
on this one,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. But just the power, the power of our beliefs to shape the view of our world,
Yeah.
and like
Yeah.
how
Influence
powerful
your
that.
situation.
Yep.
Yeah, and what you put out there, you get back.
Yeah.
You really do. So create the world you want to live today, people.
And that's why it's ... Really?
Really.
Question mark.
And with that, we'll say adieu. Thank you for joining us all today. We look forward to being on your podcast or social media soon.
I
Bye.
should have said a day.